Hello, everyone. It's me, John Flynn, once again, and we have a new week ahead of us. This is our fourth week of the NFL season. Then there are teams 3-0. There are teams 0-3. Teams desperate for a win. And here to join me again is my good pal Chris Coriali. How are you doing today?
What's going on, everyone? Week 4 is upon us, and things are going to start to get a little bit crazy now in the NFL. Some teams, like you just said, desperate for wins, and some teams seem to be on a roll.
Yeah, okay, I mean, Baltimore is 3-0 because I was dead wrong. You were right about the Baltimore-Jacksonville games, and Baltimore actually played pretty well.
Yeah. I think that, looking at the teams that they've played so far, they should be 3-0. They've had a pretty easy go of it so far, but listen.
It's not going to be easy for them against Oakland, but it's going to be a good game there. The Giants losing at home to the Redskins.
Yeah.
That's absolutely pathetic. I mean, turnovers, penalties, lack of ball protection, again.
Yeah. That seems to be the theme of the Giants so far this year, is that very similar to last season. They seem to be it hasn't really hurt them too much, but especially this past week, they seem to be beating themselves.
Yeah.
And listen, if they don't turn the ball over 3 times, they probably win that game.
Yeah,
so,
it's a game they win 9 times out of 10 against.
Right. Against a Redskins team that, I think they're inferior to the Giants.
Yeah, and that was a totally unacceptable effort in part of the Giants. So, let's get on to the games, Chris. Last week I introduced the games, and this week you did the same because when we did the calls the last few years, I introduced it one week and he did it the other. So what are we waiting for? Let's get to it.
All right, so we got a slate of 5 games that we're going to go in depth on, and we'll start off with the 2 local teams, and we'll start off with the Giants now that we're kind of on them already. So coming off a really bad loss last week to Washington, where they had the game in their hands, they were up 21-9, and in the second half they just became very sloppy. Tons of penalties really killed them. Eli Manning wasn't his sharpest that we've seen him ever. And now coming off that, they're coming off that really bad loss. Now they have to travel to Minnesota on Monday Night Football to take on a Vikings team that right now, with all the injuries they've had, Adrian Peterson out for the year, probably. Teddy Bridgewater definitely out for the year, maybe even more. They look like possibly one of the top teams in the NFL right now. Who do you got in this game, John?
All right, and the Vikings are 3-0. They absolutely demolished Cam Newton and that potent Carolina Panthers offense, and the Vikings just played good team defense. They played tight in the secondary. They played pressure ball on Cam Newton. So, but here's the thing. Last week the Giants were 2-0 and they lost to an inferior team. I think the Giants are going to come out motivated. I think they're going to come out aggressive, and I think that they're going to find ways to make plays with their trio of receivers, because just because you shut down Odell Beckham doesn't mean you're going to win a game against the Giants defense, because as they showed in week 1 that Sterling Shepard and Victor Cruz had big days to back up to bail out Odell Beckham. So the Vikings are going to have their hands full in the secondary, but I think the Giants' offensive line is going to improve their play. I think they're going to come out strong, and I think they're going to find a way to beat down the Minnesota Vikings in the new stadium on Monday Night Football. Giants 20, Vikings 19, upset special.
When I look at this game, I see a game that I think this will be I think this could turn out to be very low scoring. The Giants defense that looked very good through 2 weeks. They struggled against Washington last week, and tons of missed tackles. They were very undisciplined, ton of penalties. They still haven't caused any turnovers yet through 3 weeks, which is something that I'm not sure how long they're going to be able to survive doing that. They're going to need to start causing some turnovers, I would think. But overall, defensively, they're still much improved from the past 2 seasons that we've seen. And the Giants, when you look at the Giants' offense, I think offensively they've been able to move the ball downfield. They've actually ran the ball well for the most part. I know they're going to be without Shane Vereen now, who's been pretty good through 3 weeks, although he's had some ball control problems. But they've been able to run the ball well. But the defense that they're going to be facing Monday night in this Vikings defense is a defense that they haven't faced yet this year. They've yet to face a team with really a great defense, and they're going to be facing them this week. And even though, Minnesota hasn't really shown that they can score a ton of points with Sam Bradford and without Adrian Peterson, and I think the Giants' defense will have a fine week, but I think the key in this game is, can the Giants score enough? And I'm not sure they're going to be able to. I think in a low-scoring game, prime time, Minnesota's at their new stadium here, I think the Vikings win a low-scoring game on Monday night. Vikings 20, Giants 13.
And also, don't forget, I view this for the Giants as a must-win week because knowing they have Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers coming off their bye week in week number 5, so right. The Giants have their hands full against the NFC North the next 2 weeks.
That is indeed correct. All right. So let's go to the other local team, and I don't know how you want to state how the Jets. I mean, you're going to be able to say what your thoughts are, but after that, I've been watching a lot of football in my life, and I've never seen really that much of an ugly performance by any team, by any quarterback that I saw from the Jets and Ryan Fitzpatrick last week. Just awful football in Kansas City. 8 turnovers. I mean, you can't get worse than that, really. Almost set an NFL record. I think the record is 9. But now they come home and they have to play a Seattle team that defensively could cause the Jets some more problems. This is Sunday at 1 at MetLife. Who do you got here, John?
Yeah, and even I couldn't believe how awful Ryan Fitzpatrick was on Sunday. Like interceptions, the inability to protect the football, and everything that could have gone wrong for the Jets on Sunday did happen. And when you look at the kickoff return fumble, which was taken back by Kansas City for that touchdown, you look at all the ugly interceptions in the first half. I think Kansas City was up as much as like 17-0 before they won 24-3. But I think that the Jets are going to bounce back this week. I like that their matchups against Seattle's woeful offensive line. Russell Wilson's not 100%. The Jets defense can give the opponents problems when their offensive line is not protecting them, and the game is at MetLife Stadium. The Jets are home. It's gonna be a cloudy and overcast, and I think that's a recipe for the Jets, the New York Football Jets, to take down the Seattle Seahawks. And 2 of the last 3 years they've went to the Super Bowl, but I think the Jets find a way to get the job done on Sunday. I like the coaching with Todd Bowles. I think he's going to get the team ready and eager to play after last week's debacle, and I like the New York Jets in another upset special over the Seattle Seahawks. Jets 14, Seahawks 10.
Yeah, I agree with you. We almost have the same score. Actually, very, very close. When I look at this game, I mean, the Jets, they're not going to repeat last week's performance. I mean, I don't think you'll ever see a worse performance from Ryan Fitzpatrick than what we saw last week. I think I think that was one of those games where he just had nothing, and the Jets had nothing. But, I mean, they come home now to play a Seattle team that, yes, defensively they're good, but offensively they just have a ton of problems. And I've been down on the Seahawks really all year. This is not a team that scares me too much. And I think if you can score some points against them, you'll be able to beat them. I think offensively, like you said, the offensive line is awful. Their running back situation isn't great right now.
And again, you don't win games when your offensive line isn't good.
Right. And Russell Wilson's not 100% either. He's got a foot problem, I think. So, I mean, this is a game, I think it'll be low scoring, but I think the Jets, they'll have a much better game plan this week. Fitzpatrick's not going to take a lot of chances. I think they'll try to run the ball more. And that was another thing. They didn't even give Matt Forte the ball last week at any point during that game. Meanwhile, he was coming off a 3-touchdown performance in week 2. That was confusing. But I think in a low-scoring game, I think the Jets get back on track here. And I don't think it'll be a great performance by either team. I think it'll be an ugly game. But in the end, I do think the Jets pull it out at home. Jets 13, Seahawks 10.
Yep, so Chris is going with an upset special there as well.
All right. Let's see. The third game I want to talk about is the Sunday night game.
And it's also your game of the week, correct?
I think it's I'd say it's my game of the week. The Kansas City Chiefs, who, as we were just mentioned, blew out the Jets last week, completely dominated them in every phase of that game. One of the easier wins you'll see any team have this year. Now they go to Pittsburgh on Sunday night to take on a Steelers team that, after a great first 2 weeks, really, really disappointed a lot of people last week, and just a disastrous effort in Philadelphia against the Eagles, and they're trying to bounce back. Yeah. It's a battle of 2-1 teams on Sunday night. Who do you have?
Yeah, and going back to the Pennsylvania Turnpike game between Pittsburgh and Philly, the Eagles are on a bye week this week, so I think I'll also talk about how tremendous they were against the Steelers on all aspects. And you got to give the Eagles credit. I mean, offensively, defensively, special teams, I think they all dominated. The defense made Ben Roethlisberger look pathetic, and Carson Wentz torched Pittsburgh's secondary for 300 yards and 2 touchdowns against an elite team in Pittsburgh, and that was a testament for Philly as to where they've come. But I think the Steelers are better than this. I think the Steelers have more talent than they've realized over the last 2 weeks. But I think the game's at home, it's in Pittsburgh, but I think the Steelers have more talent and more depth on the front seven than Kansas City's front seven does. So I like the Steelers to win in a comfortable margin. Steelers 31, Chiefs 21.
Yeah, I agree. I think this week we see a bounce back from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Very surprising how bad they looked last week in Philadelphia, and it was just nothing went right. Roethlisberger didn't have a great game. The defense couldn't stop anything that the Eagles were doing with Carson Wentz. Just a very, very down week for them. But now they go back home and they play a Chiefs team that, at 2-1, they have some good qualities about them. Defensively, they're pretty good. Offensively, they don't do anything flashy on the offensive side of the football. Alex Smith's not a game-changing quarterback at all. And, they're able to run the ball decently. But I think this week, Pittsburgh's defense steps up, and they look more like they looked the first 2 weeks of the season. And I think the Steelers' offense comes back alive. I think Antonio Brown has a big game. Do they get Le'Veon Bell back this week?
Yes, they do. It's not because remember the suspension was cut down from 4 games to 3 games.
Right. So they get Le'Veon Bell back this week. Should help the running game tremendously for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I like the Steelers to rebound at home this week comfortably. Give me the Steelers 27, Chiefs 19. All right. So let's go to our fourth game that we're going to go into. One of the 1 o'clock starts, and I see this as a big game in the NFC South. It's the Carolina Panthers, who, coming off a very, very bad loss to the Vikings, where they were just outplayed. Cam Newton got sacked 8 times by that Vikings defense, something that we've never really seen before. And defensively, they played okay, but overall, just a very bad loss at home. Now they travel to Atlanta to take on a Falcons team that you could say, defensively they have issues, which they do, but offensively they've actually looked good good in recent weeks, and with a win against Carolina this week, they can take control of this division. So who do you got?
Yeah, and just looking at the rosters, when you try to compare them from last season to this season, I think the Falcons are much better on their offensive line. I think they have more depth at the wide receiver position, hence the acquisition of Mohamed Sanu from the Cincinnati Bengals, and I think when you factor that in, it creates more open spaces for Julio Jones. But again, this is not the New Orleans Saints. This is the Carolina Panthers, and you got Cam Newton, you got a better team, the better coach, and the better defense, and the better quarterback. They all belong to the Panthers. Give me the Panthers in a close one. Panthers 23, Falcons 22.
All right. When I look at this game, I see. I think through 3 weeks now, I see a Panthers team that is not the same as they were last year. Obviously not. I mean, they won 15-1 last year, but it's a team that right now, defensively, they don't look great. And offensively, they looked fine until last week where they went up against a very good defense. That's understandable. But, I mean, getting sacked 8 times when you're Cam Newton, that's a little concerning. And I don't know if that says something about the offensive line. But, you know, there are some question marks about this Panthers team. Obviously now without Josh Norman, they're down, you know, their best cornerback, and they haven't really been able to recover from that yet. And then when I look at the Falcons, I mean, defensively, yes, they have issues. Not a lot of playmakers on defense. They don't rush the passer well. But Matt Ryan has looked like a different quarterback so far through 3 weeks. He's put up a lot of big numbers. He's performed at a very high level. They've been able to run the ball well with their 2 running backs, Devontae Freeman and I forgot his first name, but his last name's Coleman. I don't remember his first name.
Tevin Coleman?
Tevin Coleman, right, that's right. They've been a pretty good 2-headed monster there. I mean, offensively, they just look terrific. And, you know, Julio Jones, you know, without Josh Norman, I think the Panthers might have some problems guarding Julio Jones this week. And I see this game as a higher scoring game, but I'm going to go out on a limb here. Give me the Falcons in an upset special at home. I think this could be a statement win for the Atlanta Falcons if they do end up pulling off the upset here. And it could really propel them. I mean, the Panthers dropping to 1-3, that's not something a lot of people would have expected before the year. I'm going to go on a limb and say it happens. Give me in a higher scoring game, Atlanta at home, in overtime. Atlanta 31, Carolina 29.
So you think the game is going?
Well, 28.
So I was going to say, you really think the Falcons defense was going to sack Cam Newton in the end zone for a safety in overtime?
Yeah, no. I meant 28. Yeah.
All right. So Chris's pick is Falcons 31, Panthers 28 in overtime. Just for clarification. All right. Next.
All right. So the final game I want to go over this week. I think this is another intriguing game. It's a 4 o'clock start time in Tampa Bay. We got the Denver Broncos, who once again this year look very, very good and dangerous. They're at 3-0 right now, and they travel to Tampa to take on a Buccaneers team that looked very good in Week 1, looked awful in Week 2, and then had a really tough loss last week at home to the Los Angeles Rams in a pretty crazy game that was delayed by weather and everything like that. So who do you got this week? Denver at Tampa.
Yeah, and I give the Rams credit for going into Tampa and beating the Buccaneers. It was a game that both of us picked wrong. Obviously, if you saw last week's video, that it's up on my channel. But when we see these two teams, I look at it's a team that has shown resilience over and over again this season, and the reigning Super Bowl champion Denver Broncos. Look, these last 3 weeks, the Broncos have shown why they're Super Bowl champions, and their defense was terrific against Cincinnati, Andy Dalton, and that offense of theirs. But I also see a Tampa Bay team that gave the Rams a fight. The Rams had an advantage on defense. because their front seven is scary, and I think Tampa Bay held their own for the vast majority of the game. But I think when we look at the two teams, I think the X factor here is Trevor Siemian. I mean, he's done a great job protecting the football over the last 2 weeks and found ways to win games for his team. And I think when you see the number one defense in the NFL from a year ago, I like the Denver Broncos to go to South Florida and pull out a win here. Broncos 17 as they go to 4-0. Buccaneers 14.
All right. The Buccaneers game last week, they lost at home to the Rams. It was a very tough loss, but at the same time, I thought they outplayed the Rams for the most part, and I thought it was just one of those games where it happens once in a while where you outplay the other team, but yet you just don't win. And Winston didn't have a great game last week. He was sloppy with the ball. But I think that was more of an aberration. I think when I look at the game this week, I see a Broncos team that's looked very good through 3 weeks. They had a big win last week in Cincinnati, a win that really showed, I think, how Trevor Siemian has matured as a quarterback. I mean, going to Cincinnati and winning there, it's not an easy task, and they did that. Siemian overall, I think, has looked fine, and he's looked like a great replacement for Peyton Manning so far. And he's going to have some sloppy games. I mean, we know that, it's not a Broncos team that's going to go undefeated. But, they just don't have that talent at quarterback to do that. But when I look at the game this week, I see a game where I think if Jameis Winston can take care of the football, I think if he can take care of the football, that would be a huge swing in momentum during the game, and I think I could see the Buccaneers pulling one out here this week. I just don't see the Broncos. They're going to lose a game. I think this is a game that they could lose. I think this is more of a trap game, if you want to think of it like that.
So I agree. It's some form of a trap game against the promising quarterback in Winston. Go on.
Yeah, and I think if they could take care of the football, I think that the Buccaneers' defense is good enough that they could hold down the Broncos. And give me Tampa Bay at home in an upset special to knock off Denver. They're going to lose eventually. I think this is the week that they lose. Tampa Bay 20, Broncos 19.
All right, so we have upset specials through the feature games. Let's get to the rest of our picks for week number 4. Both of us have Cincinnati over Miami. Both of us have Detroit over Chicago. Both of us have the Texans without J.J. Watt beating the Tennessee Titans. Both of us have the Patriots and Bill Belichick and maybe Julian Edelman, maybe, to crush the Buffalo Bills. Both of us have Washington over Cleveland. Washington are trying to get to 2-2. But there are 2 games, Chris, where we disagree in part. The Indianapolis-Jacksonville game, I think Jacksonville this time gets their first win. I picked them twice over the last 2 weeks, and neither one worked out for me. But why do you think Indianapolis goes to 2-2?
Yeah, I mean, when I look at this game, I mean, it's in London also.
Yes, so it's a 9:30 a.m. game.
Right. So I mean, there's no really home field advantage here for either team. I just see right now the Jaguars, they have some talent, but right now they're not really healthy, and Blake Bortles has not looked that great. I mean, he's very careless with the football at times, and I get that the Colts defense isn't really great, but I think Andrew Luck has a good enough game that the Colts pull out the win here. And I could see Blake Bortles throwing a big interception late in this game.
Yeah, and the other game we disagree upon is the Baltimore-Oakland game, because I mentioned at the start of the video that Baltimore is trying to get to 4-0, but I just see something from the Oakland Raiders this season that I didn't see last year or of course in years past. So why do you see Baltimore going to 4-0?
Well, I give the Raiders credit. I mean, defensively through the first 2 weeks, they didn't look good at all. And last week, even though it was against an opponent that they should be beating with Tennessee, the defense looked better. And I mean, I think Oakland has a lot of talent. I think they're a playoff contender in the AFC. But when I look at this game, I think I think it'll be a very, very huge task for Oakland. I think that. I mean, and I get that Baltimore hasn't really faced.
It's okay. I mean, who are they faced? The Bills, the Browns, and the Jaguars.
Right.
And among the three teams, they have a combined 1 win so far.
Right. Right. Yeah. So I mean, I get that. That's why I do have this game being a very close one. But I think Baltimore's defense will play good enough to hold down the Raiders, who have a pretty high-powered offense, I'd say. Derek Carr, with Derek Carr and Amari Cooper, they look pretty good. But I like Joe Flacco here.
And I think you're also forgetting about Latavius Murray.
Latavius Murray, right, at running back. He's looked pretty well. He's looked prety good as well. But overall, I see this as a game that I think comes down to the wire. But I like Baltimore. They're the more experienced team.
Yes, so those were the 1 o'clock games, the early games. So let's round out the schedule with 3 4:25 games, and I think all across the board we are in a consensus with Arizona, New Orleans, and Dallas all winning games. But what a game in that I see in particular is Drew Brees returning to San Diego for the first time since 2007. That was, of course, the team he started with in the first place, and it's going to be a good game between the two teams.
It's gonna be a great game. I think it'll be a close game. I have the Saints winning 26-23.
Yeah, and neither of that is more of a shootout, 34-31.
Yeah, and that could be possible because both these defenses aren't great. But I think the Saints. I think this is a great opportunity for the Saints to get their first win. I think going on the road to face a San Diego team that isn't that good. And I think I just have a feeling Drew Brees on the road at his old stadium. I think he performs pretty well, and I think the Saints get their first win.
Yeah, and with the Chargers, that they're 1-2, and then your upset special pick from last week didn't come through with San Diego under Indianapolis, but yeah, and another thing one final game I want to talk about is the Dallas San Francisco game. It's the nationally televised game. It's going to be telecast by Joe Buck and Troy Aikman on Fox. And Dallas absolutely demolished the Chicago Bears in all assets, 31-17, and their offensive line is terrific. Their run game has been very good. Dak Prescott hasn't yet turned the ball over. And I do think the Niners are going to give it a fight, but this Dallas team is outperforming their expectations in my view.
Yeah. I mean, listen. Through 3 weeks, I've seen some very good things out of the Dallas Cowboys. Especially on the offensive side of the football. Defensively, I think they still have some problems, and I think that's a reason why I still don't see them at the end winning this division. Especially the way the Eagles have looked now. But yeah, I mean, I do like what I've seen from Dak Prescott, but the reason I have this game being close, I do think Dallas will win. But a rookie quarterback on the road in San Francisco, it's still, no matter who you are, it's never easy going on the road as a rookie. And I think the 49ers right now, who are looking for their, even though they have a win already, but they're going to be looking for an upset here. I think this actually could be the week that Prescott throws his first interception. I think that could be my bold prediction.
He's overdue, right?
Right. Yeah. Especially as a rookie, you have to think he'll throw one eventually. I think this could be that week, but I do think Dallas pulls out the win.
Yes, and so there are 15 games on the schedule, but the two teams on bye are the Philadelphia Eagles, who are 3-0, and the Packers, who are 2-1. So those teams are both coming off big wins against the Steelers, respectively, for the Eagles, and the Lions with the Packers, and they'll be probably coming out strong, coming off their bye week. So we've got a lot of football to be played, and thank you for joining us this today, and as we preview another week of NFL picks. Goodbye, everybody.